Hey, welcome. Today we are diving into something huge, the Pali Canon, the ancient scriptures of Buddhism. But we're not going to approach this like scholars in a library. Nope, we're going to look at it as a practical map, specifically through the eyes of a meditator in the Thai forest tradition. So, let's jump right in.
And this is the question, right? You're faced with this mountain of wisdom, thousands upon thousands of pages. It can feel pretty intimidating. Honestly, the biggest challenge is just figuring out where to even start without getting completely lost.
To navigate this, the Thai forest tradition has this really fascinating paradox. On one hand, you have the written word, the Pali Canon itself, which is treated with immense respect. But on the other hand, the real goal, the whole point, is the unwritten Dhamma. And that's the direct, first-hand experience of a mind that's free from suffering. The texts are the map for sure, but they are not the treasure itself.
And that idea right there brings us to the core philosophy that makes these ancient texts so incredibly practical and alive even today. It's all about practice, not just collecting more theories.
So the tradition uses these two key Pali words that you hear a lot. The first is pariyati. That's the theoretical study, learning the map. The second is patipati, and that's the practice, actually walking the path. And while you need the theory, the foundation, the real emphasis is always on putting it into action.
The great master Ajahn Chah just nailed it with this saying. You can read a doctor's prescription 100 times, analyze every single word, but if you don't actually take the medicine, well, the disease of suffering isn't going anywhere. It's as simple as that. Okay, so keeping that practical mindset front and center, let's take a quick tour of the canon's structure. It's known as the Tipitaka, which literally means the three baskets. We're going to explore it purely from a meditator's point of view.
So the Tipitaka is organized into three main sections. First, you've got the Vinaya, which is all about monastic discipline. Second is the Sutta Pitaka, which are the actual discourses of the Buddha. And third, there's the Abhidhamma, which is a much more dense, philosophical breakdown of reality.
Now, the Vinaya. You might hear monastic rules and think, okay, that's not for me. But hold on. The forest tradition sees its principles as absolutely vital for everyone. They call it the essential container of virtue. It's this foundation of harmlessness, of contentment, that actually allows the mind to become stable enough for concentration and wisdom to even have a chance to grow.
All right, now for a practitioner, the Sutta Pitaka is where the real gold is. And the tradition has a really handy way of breaking it down. Think of the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle-length discourses, as your how-to manual. It's packed with practical meditation instructions. Then you have the Samyutta Nikaya, which is like the what is of reality. It groups teachings by topics so you can really dig into the philosophy. And finally, there's the Khuddaka Nikaya, which adds the inspirational flavor, with beautiful poetry like the famous Dhammapada.
And what about that third basket, the Abhidhamma? Well, this is where the forest tradition kind of pumps the brakes a little. There's a real concern that its incredibly detailed analysis can lead to something called papancha. It's this fantastic Pali word for just getting lost in these endless webs of intellectual thought, mental rabbit holes. And that can be a huge distraction from the simple, direct work of just observing your own mind.
Okay, so we've got the layout of our map, we know where the different sections are, but what's the actual compass we use to navigate it? How do we organize the practice itself?
The forest tradition often points right to this framework, the wings to awakening. Now, this isn't some later commentary. This is the Buddha's own summary of his most practical teachings, all grouped together into 7 distinct sets of mental tools. It's like his greatest hits collection for liberation.
And here they are. Now, you do not need to memorize this list right now. Just get a feel for the scope of it. We're talking about a complete psychological toolkit here. It covers everything from mindfulness and effort to concentration and wisdom, the whole shebang.
And here is the crucial part. Sitting right at the heart of this entire framework, the culmination of it all, is the most famous teaching, the Noble Eightfold Path. This is seen as the ultimate step-by-step guide for actually walking the path to the end of suffering. Okay, so we've got our framework, we've got our compass. Now for the most practical question of all. Which page do you actually turn to first? Where do you begin? Let's get really specific.
To keep from getting completely overwhelmed, the tradition points to just a few key texts that really serve as an anchor for the whole practice. The idea is, if you're going to read anything, you start right here.
First up, and this is the big one, is the Anapanasati Sutta. It's often called the crown jewel of meditation texts in the forest tradition. It's a 16-step guide on how to use the simple, humble breath to develop both deep calm, that's samatha, and penetrating insight, vipassana, all at the same time.
Next is the famous Satipatthana Sutta, the main discourse on the foundations of mindfulness. But here's the key difference in how this tradition approaches it. It's not practiced as some kind of dry noting technique. It's done with and supported by the stable concentration you build up through breath meditation. It's mindfulness with power behind it.
And, to make things even easier, there are curated guides. An absolutely excellent one is On the Path by Thanissaro Bhikkhu. It does all the hard work for you, pulling passages from all over the canon and organizing them neatly around each step of the Noble Eightfold Path. It's a fantastic starting point. So as we wrap up here, let's circle all the way back to our main theme. Because in the forest tradition, how you read is every bit as important as what you read. It's about taking the words off the page and really getting them into your heart. So how do you do that? Well, here are 3 key methods. First, listen to the suttas. Don't just read them like a textbook. Read them as if the Buddha himself were sitting right there, speaking directly to you. Second, chant. Daily chanting isn't just a ritual. It's a powerful way to embed these teachings deep into your mind. And finally, the ultimate test. Does your understanding actually lead to less greed, less anger, less confusion in your life? You have to test everything against your own direct, lived experience.
Ultimately, the entire Pali Canon, when you approach it this way, is just a map. It's a map to a treasure that's hidden inside your own mind. So the final question is pretty simple, really. What happens when you finally put the map down and you actually start to dig?